Welcome to the Bojack Podcast Horseman Obviously. This is episode number 5. My name is Dominic and I'm joined by Matthew.
Hello.
The aim of this podcast is for me to convince Matthew that Bojack Horseman is the greatest animated TV show of all time. And in this episode, we will be discussing Series 1, Episode 5, Live Fast, Diane Nguyen. Hello, Matthew.
Hello.
How you doing?
Yeah, pretty good. I'm on holiday for the first time in a long time, so yeah.
Good. It's good to have a break.
Yeah.
This is episode number 5 now, so we're starting to get into the flow of the show a little bit, I think. Well, we're coming up to the halfway point. Next episode will be halfway.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling quite good. I feel like we're in the flow of the podcast now, so I'm quite happy about that.
Yep.
And 18 people have listened to at least 60 seconds on one of the 2 podcasts. I can't find out the tension.
Get it.
That's maybe
awesome.
You.
Yeah.
One from South Africa.
Okay.
And USA.
Okay. Interesting.
So this is a global podcast.
Excellent. We've gone international already.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got into a good rhythm, a good flow with recording the podcast.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the show still hasn't got into a good flow with me.
No. I'm not surprised that you're still not gripped by it.
Yeah.
Because I think it is. It's. I mean, particularly the last couple, like for me, they're good episodes, but they're not like how I see the show.
Okay.
And what I remember the show for. Apart from episode 2 a bit, I do like that one with the Bojack Hates the Troops.
Okay, yeah.
That one's one that I think is one of the saviours from series 1.
Yeah, I would probably say that's probably the smartest episode. Okay. The rest of the episodes that I've seen have been pretty dumb.
Okay.
Including this one.
Okay. We'll touch on something because I probably would agree.
Because there's two storylines in this.
Right, so would you like to explain what in this episode?
Okay, so there's 2 main plot lines in this episode. One where Bojack and Diane go to New York and then go to Boston to go to the Penguin Publishing House and then go to see Diane's family because her father's passed away. The secondary plot line is Todd's left on his own at home and inadvertently opens up David Boreanaz's fake house and conducts these massive tours and creates this con with Princess Carolyn. The Bojack and Diane story, I didn't love it, but it had some merit. It had some interesting points. But Todd's story, it's just a dumb.
I think this
kind of. I don't know. I didn't get it. It didn't add any value to the episode for me.
Maybe you're seeing a part of how I struggle with Todd, because there is some gems and he does add some.
It's not Todd as a character that's the issue. It's the unbelievable nature of the story, of the plot line.
Yes.
That like all these hundreds of people are attending this thing.
Okay.
And all of them, quote unquote, fall for it.
Yes.
Not one of them. It's so over the top stupid.
Is that the point of it? Is that the joke?
I don't know.
There is. I feel like there is a joke. No, like there's a running joke through the episode about no one knows what show he's in.
Okay.
So they keep going. Like the tour operator at first says this is David Boreanaz's house.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what he says, but he says in Castle ?
Yeah, but they didn't even mention his most famous role.
No, but that's also the point. So you know what he's famous.
Yeah, he's Angel in Buffy, right? So like a certain demographic. That's all. Like I don't know any of his other shows.
No,
I only know him as Angel from Buffy.
But I think the joke is that it's a bit like the Ryan Seacrest character.
Yeah.
I think it is just a joke about a minor celebrity, and sort of because they're all sort of playing. There's so many what I would call like white middle-aged men playing generic TV shows. I think they get a very generic-looking person, and then you actually don't realise who's who.
Okay.
Because of this sort of like they've got to be moderately attractive, a certain height, a certain build, or just they can't have glasses or a weird facial hair sort of thing. So they've got to be a certain type. But I don't know whether you need a whole sub-story for that joke.
Yeah, if that's the joke, it wasn't very funny.
Yeah. And I feel like this is what Todd's bits are sometimes, that it's like a bit of a long joke. It is a bit of a joke. But again, and like I said, maybe this is why I struggle with Todd, though, is because this is now what we're associating with him for this episode. And now I think it, as well, from unfortunately what I know about Todd in the future, it takes away from his character a bit. This episode is directed by Joel Mosier. So he directed the first episode as well.
Okay.
And it's written by Raphael Bob Waxberg and Caroline Williams. So we start the episode in the airport with Bojack and Diane going through the security gates. And as Bojack goes through the security gates, the alarm goes off because he's got his hip flask on him. And the security guard tells him, like, no fluids over 3 ounces. Bojack says the infamous line that all us mere mortals know, do you know who I am?
I thought that when he said it, I was like, is that the first time that he's said it in the show? I don't know if he said it before.
Yeah, definitely the first time he said it in the show, because I don't think it's not quite that line of who could that be when it keeps coming up again.
Okay. No, that's the famous washed up celebrity line into it. And I was like, as soon as he said it, I thought that's the line that you expect a character like Bojack to say. Yes.
So yeah, as Bojack says, do you know who I am? The whole line sort of moans and grumbles behind him, just like I think the audience is. Or like you would see a celebrity and that's it, you'd be like, oh, bloody hell, they're doing that whole thing. But I kind of like how Bojack's trying to still give off this facade that he's a nice person. He's trying to be nice in the situation. He says to everyone in the line, he goes, don't worry about him. He's just doing his job. Like, don't hate him. Don't like. Okay. So he's trying. It's like he's trying to be the middleman between the line and the security guard, when actually someone needs to be between him and the security guard trying to manage the situation. But yeah, it's like, it's not his fault. He's just doing his job. And then a man actually in the line corrects him. He goes, no, it's your fault, dummy. Like, no one's blaming the security guard. Everyone's annoyed with you. So Bojack then says, I'll down the whiskey then, fine. And he drinks it. Or I think he says something like, if you want to play that.
It was a very specific line that he said. I was like, because he said it and I was like, I don't know what he's going to do here. And then he just downs and he starts downing his whiskey.
But he does say a line before it as well. He says, if this was a girl, I would have stopped having sex with it a year ago.
Yeah, because he's talking about how aged the whiskey is.
Yeah, so like if you knew how much I paid for this whiskey, you wouldn't make it down. You'd allow me to take it. Again, like he's got this privilege because he's famous.
Yeah.
But yeah, he downs the whiskey, and while he's downing it, Diane just sort of cruises through security with no problems. And Bojack says to her, like, how did you get through security so fast? Like, he can't comprehend that it's an easy thing to do. And she goes, I followed the basic requirements for air travel that have been in place for over a decade. And I really like when Bojack just goes, ugh, weird. Like, it's sort of like that sort of, oh, you're such a geek. I'd rather not follow all the rules, basically.
I interpreted it as he's above the rules.
Okay, yeah.
That, like, she's saying, like, you got to follow the rules. And he's like, follow the rules?
Yes.
Like, why? You're only a person in my position.
Yeah, oh, okay, yeah.
That's disgusting, having to follow the rules.
Yeah.
Not like one of you.
But also just how low that bar is, the rules are. Like, they're not like difficult rules to follow. She said they've been in place for basic requirements for a decade.
Yeah.
And the security officer then says to him, whoever you are, and he's about to go into something. And then Bojack's like, what, you don't know who I am? Like, he's really offended that he really can't believe that the security officer's either pretending not to know who he is, or an even worse situation where he doesn't know who he is. And he goes on a bit of a short spiel, but basically he pulls out a gun-shaped object.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh my God, he's got a gun. And he goes, no, it's just my lighter. And says to the officer, but actually, how much lighter fluid can I take on a plane? But before you answer, remember, I'm a celebrity.
Yeah.
So he's sort of like really pushing that fact that he's the famous person in the ball.
It's not exactly a lighter as well. When he fires it, it's more like a flamethrower than a lighter.
Yeah. So first of all, it's like, should you be able to take a gun-shaped object onto a plane? Probably not. Should it be a flamethrower? No. And even at the smallest, like why do you need to take lighter fluid onto a plane if you're not lighting a cigarette nowadays? Like you just, it's almost like he's going out of his way to break the rules to prove he's a celebrity.
Yeah.
That brings us into the opening credits. And after the opening credits, we are in the office with Pinky again, your favourite. Diane and Bojack are meeting him in New York.
The setup for this is a bit of a joke as well.
Yes, okay,
because it shows you this, it's obviously in New York now, and it shows you this big, impressive glass-fronted skyscraper that pans down, and then it pans across to this small, dilapidated building next door. It's setting you up to think it's in the impressive building, and then it's just a shithole next door.
Did you get the name on top of the building as well?
I didn't see that name.
E-Publisher.
Okay.
So again, a sort of a reference of print media being dead. Okay. The new thing is e-publishing, because we can just all use our screen.
Yeah. And Diane doesn't even have a chair. She's sat on a pile of books.
Oh, I didn't see that. That was good.
Yeah.
Good spot. Or maybe I have seen it, but I didn't recognise it.
Bojack's got a chair, but Diane's just sat on a pile of books.
Yes. And again, he's, instead of offering the chair to the woman, whether that's sexy or not, he's taken the chair because he's the celebrity.
Although he is an older man. And she's quite young, so
But I don't know
what takes precedence. Is it chivalrous offer the chair to the lady, or is it the right thing to do to offer the chair to the older person?
So in the office, Bojack is like, yeah, it's working really well, and you're going to have a book soon. But then Diane has to go and take a phone call, and at this point, Bojack says, "It's not working. She's too functional." Was his phrase.
Okay.
Like, she's too much of a normal person.
Yeah.
She's obviously setting up for later in the episode as well, but she isn't damaged enough to tell his story, which I think is also a bit of a comment on his, although it's setting up the rest of the story, it's a comment on him being like, still a bit worried about what the book will be like, so potentially procrastinating a bit more, saying, no, maybe we'll get a different writer. Yeah, I think Bojack saying that about Diane being functional is also it's reaffirming how she's been the voice of reason up to now. Like, she's been quite calm. She's been telling him in the Bojack Hates the Troops, she's like, well, no, I don't think you should engage in that conversation. Yeah. And with Sarah Lynn, she was like, oh, I think you're taking advantage. So she's been like well-rounded person up to now. Which I think it changes in this episode. We see a different side of her, obviously, in this episode.
I don't know if I'm reading into it too much, but when he talks about her being too functional, because when he says she's too functional, Pinky has a bit of a rant at him, like, what do you mean she's too functional? Like, she's writing your book, idiot. Like, she needs to be functional. And I don't know if this is Bojack's feelings for Diane coming through. He maybe in a way kind of admires what's perceived to be a more well-rounded person than he is.
So what does that mean for
he says when he says she's too functional,
right?
I think that's just that might be Bojack saying she's so functional. It's pretty clear that Bojack, being a narcissist, would find it very difficult to compliment someone else,
right? Okay.
So he wouldn't say she's really good at her job,
right?
He actually puts a negative spin on it by saying she's too functional, as if to say, she's really functional, but he can't say that, so he makes it a negative thing.
Yeah. Yes, I think there could be a few things going on. So when Diane comes back from taking the phone call, Bojack says to her, who was at the library thanking you for never returning a book, which again is a thing about her being so functional, following the rules.
Yeah.
But it's nice that it's such a trivial joke. And then when she comes in and says, oh, that was my brother Tommy, my dad's just died, he's like, oh my God, I feel really bad now.
Yeah.
But she does seem very unbothered by the news.
Yeah.
She says he was old and also the worst.
Initially, Bojack and Pinky both have like quite a strong negative reaction, but then as soon as...
How most of us in that.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
but then immediately, as soon as it's made clear that Diane doesn't care, Pinky just falls straight back into business.
Where does this lead us with the book?
Yeah.
She says, no, it's fine. I can swing by Boston and give some condolences. Bojack can come with me and we can get some work done on the way. And that way the whole trip won't be a total waste of time. It really leans into this fact that she's not bothered and it's not a meaningful event for her.
Yeah.
But maybe this is also the first sign as well that she's not as functional as we first thought. So this is the first point where like she's
that's true. Actually,
she's not a functional person.
That's well, without knowing the exact context of their family dynamics.
Yeah,
I would argue that that's pretty dysfunctional.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is that's a good point. Yeah.
This is where we switch to the secondary story, Todd's story, and he's cooking scrambled eggs in the kitchen, and he starts reading a note that Bojack left him.
It doesn't exactly.
Okay.
I thought the way that this was introduced was quite clever.
Yeah. Okay.
Only because I've not seen it. It was dumb.
Yeah.
But it was original at least. So he's cooking his eggs, and he hears Bojack saying something like, "Stop singing that stupid egg song," or something. And then Todd freaks out and he's like, "Oh, I can hear Bojack." And he's like, "No, you're reading."
Yeah.
And then that leads on to the note.
Yes.
So Todd is accidentally reading this note, doesn't realize that he's reading this note because he's reading it in Bojack's voice. But I didn't actually look on the note. Does it say stop singing that egg song?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the first word on the note, I'm sure, is stop singing that.
I thought it was dumb, but it was original. So I was like, that intrigued me.
Thinking about it now, I've also got the idea that actually it shows how strong the relationship is between Todd and Bojack. Despite him displaying like a hatred of him, basically, an annoyance that he's there.
It shows how well he knows.
He knows that Todd's in the kitchen singing his scrambled egg song, and that he's just going to glance over and start reading this note that Bojack's left.
Yeah.
It also sets up sort of the structure for the narrative for Todd's secondary story of every time we go back to him, we're going to hear this voice in his head.
Okay. It does give Bojack a omnipotent vibe, though.
Okay, yeah.
And like I said, I didn't read the note, but does it say, like, when Todd's like, "Oh, I can hear your voice," and then he says, "No, you can't. You're reading."
That's how reading works.
Is that written on the note as well?
Yeah. Who said that? It's this note that you're reading. You're hearing my voice in your head because that's how reading works. Although he didn't say Todd. Todd didn't say Todd, did he, at the start?
No. What stuff?
Can you say it?
Yeah. Good. Play it again.
Okay. There's a...
Todd says who said that.
Yes. Oh, no. Oh, right. Okay.
So it's not... No. So all we've got is Bojack's side of the conversation.
Okay. But then Bojack's known that Todd's going to say who said that.
Yeah.
So it's still well written from Bojack.
So it does give Bojack a all-knowing kind of omnipotent status of he knew what Todd was going to be doing. I did think that was pretty clever.
Okay, good. So he's about to not do anything and do what the note said, because the note ends with him saying, "Don't do anything." Mm-hmm. Which he does mean like don't make a mess and that. But Todd takes it over literally and he freezes, and then he sneezes and he goes, "Oh, the sewer's broken. We'll have some fun now."
Yeah.
And then he goes on this sort of, it's a bit like is it like what the kids do when the parents will...
Oh, for sure. It's Home Alone.
Is it? It is Home Alone, you're right.
It's like the first thing he does is start eating cereal and jumping on Bojack's bed.
It's a while since I've seen it.
Yeah. Like it's just totally just...
it's very much just having fun.
It's a cliche. It's, Kevin at home on Home Alone. It's not exactly Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but it's like, it's that kids... unsupervised kids kind of vibe.
So he's about to, one of the things he's going to do is he's taking the trampoline outside, and I think he's going to perform like some weird stuff outside. Yeah. But a tour bus turns up doing a tour of Star's homes, and the guide says, "This is David Boreanaz's house." I can't remember what the tour guide says here, but I think he says from some show.
Yeah.
Or something like that. So he doesn't reference
I think, yeah.
But another tourist later says, "Oh, he was from Burn Notice."
Okay.
So it's just another generic American TV show. but he got it wrong. And on this, in this whole episode, no one actually puts together that he was Angel.
Yeah.
Which I think is the joke. But then one of the tourists says, "Oh, I would have paid $50 to look round David Boreanaz's house." And then this sort of flicks a switch in Todd's mind, and he's like, "Oh right, yeah, if you pay 50, yeah, this is his house. Come in and have a look round. This is David Boreanaz's house." And he thinks, "Oh, I'll make a quick buck here. I'll get $50 off all these people." So Diane and Bojack are in the car traveling to Boston to Diane's family home. And Bojack says he's not very good in these situations, but Diane says he can wait in the car so he doesn't have to meet her brothers, who are narrow-minded, mean-spirited dirtbags. So again, she's not getting on. It's not just her dad, it's her brothers as well, that she doesn't have a very high opinion of. But you're a sibling, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're both siblings. Obviously, Bojack in this episode is often talking about how he thinks it's such a joyous situation to have brothers and sisters. And I think he says like playing touch football and rookie parades and stuff like that. And that sort of like boisterous fun and having loads of having friends with you all the time, basically. Which I think anyone who is a sibling would automatically recognise as false. But I think most siblings have arguments. There's times when they hate each other, but then they also get on at times. So we know as siblings, it's not like that. But Bojack hasn't got a clue because he's an only child and because he had so little attention from the rest of his family as well.
Yeah.
So he's really, and the sitcom work he did as well with this sort of family of brother and sisters who get on and help each other out in difficult situations. So he's only ever seen a facade of what brothers and sisters and family life is like, which I think comes across in this.
Yeah, I think this through line in the episode, this plot point it might be the first time in the Bojack series that I've actually felt something for Bojack. Like, he's clearly wants that connection. He brings it up a couple of times. I don't know if it's a loneliness thing or just an experience that you feel like you missed out on, but yeah, it's probably the first time that I've not hated Bojack as a character.
He literally says it can be pretty lonely as an only child.
Yeah.
And then this is where we get a cutscene to him as a child going to his dad saying, "Do you want to meet my imaginary friend?" And his dad is very, like we know his dad anyway now, but he's very just not interested in his imaginary friend and says they're freeloaders who were invented by communists to rip off the welfare. Maybe he thinks his situation might have even been just a bit nicer if he had a brother or sister who was going through the same situation as him.
Yeah,
but I think it's clear Bojack didn't enjoy being an only child. And he thinks the grass is greener on the other side.
Yeah, don't we all?
Yes. Diane explains that she was pretty lonely too. Her family made her life a misery and they never forgave her for leaving home. She says she's the member of the family no one likes. Which is, there's a nice little joke here where Bojack says, "Oh, so you're the black sheep of the family?" And Diane goes, "No, Gary's the black sheep. He's actually adopted." And he...
okay. That you've just made a link there. Because when he's introduced, I was like, why the hell is this guy? Because why is it?
Were you still a bit like, oh, it's that anthropomorphic world where people are animals?
Yeah.
But no, she says he's the black sheep.
I forgot that line.
Which is a nice joke. It's a nice play on their whole world that they're in.
I like that because every family has a black sheep. And in their family, he is literally a black sheep. Yeah. So, it
works well.
The episode has just gone up marginally in my opinion.
It's a bit like, it's not quite the same, but it's a bit like, it's getting closer to that triple threat of the character, the animal, and the job, isn't it? That all work really well. Yeah. It's not quite there, but it's quite close.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Bojack also now says, you said to me you sat on the roof with your dad to open up. And and look at the stars. And Diane says, oh no, that's not the truth. The truth is I would sit alone on the hill out by the dump and dream of waking up as Chelsea Clinton.
With my hair.
With her hair. Yeah, so it's really hard to see, isn't it, I think, in an animation, whether she does have nice hair. So I don't know where that sort of comes from, but maybe it's just a little joke. Maybe it's just there. Again, like, maybe this is showing that connection that Bojack and Diane have, because they both think that she's got nicer hair than Chelsea Clinton. Yeah. But yeah, she reveals that she lied to Bojack about that, and Bojack's a little bit hurt about that, isn't he? He makes a little quip about it. So they arrive at Diane's family home, and she says, don't worry, it's just going to be a quick hi and bye, 10 minutes at the most. And she gives Bojack a kaleidoscope to keep him occupied, which he says, look, I'm not 5 years old. I'm not going to be, why are you giving me a kaleidoscope? But then as soon as he looks through it, he's completely mesmerised. And it's sort of done in quite a comical way where it's like very sudden. He doesn't even finish the sentence before he then says, oh, I love it.
Do you think there's a deeper joke here? This could be in Family Guy.
Go, what do you mean? Oh, you mean it's rubbish?
Well, if it's just sit on the back seat of this car and wait, I'll give you a kaleidoscope to keep you company. Is there a deeper meaning to the kaleidoscope, or is it just a dumb?
No,
because this dumb joke can go in any cartoon ever.
No, you're right.
It's a very Family Guy vibe for me.
Yeah, I think the only thing it does is it's like a little passive joke. So Diane enters the family home and we're introduced to all her brothers. This is the point where I should say this episode has a lot of jokes about Boston, I think, that I probably don't get. Yeah. But also jokes about American jokes in general, I think. Sports jokes and American Boston jokes. I know Boston's it is portrayed as a very heavy sports city. Yeah. So there's obviously a tie there, but yeah. I think there's a bit of a joke. Well, I don't know whether it's a joke or whether it's just easy animation in like their T-shirts. Like their T-shirts just say like sports on. One
of the brothers is wearing a Boston Bruins jersey.
Okay,
it's their ice hockey team.
The colours you recognised, or
no? The actual. It's the.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's got the Boston Bruins symbol. It's like a B.
Okay,
in like a circle type.
But there's definitely there's one. So if you recognise the logo on one, on the other T-shirts where it just says like sports or ball game, that's deliberate as well.
I guess so.
So then is it? Because I was sort of thinking, is it easier for the animators just to write sports on, so you know it's a sports jersey, or is it like poking a bit of fun at people who like sports, trying to tell you they like sports, or only wearing sports clothing, and it's nothing to do with they're not players, they're not.
No, as far as I'm aware, the only actual sports brand that I saw was Boston Bruins.
But I feel like with the sports and like the generic stuff, then I do feel like the one thing I didn't quite like is
I think the colours were off though.
Okay.
I don't think the colours were right of his jersey. So maybe this is
it's a licensing thing you can't put.
Maybe it's an indicator of their lack of money.
Okay.
That they can't afford
because it is a rundown neighbourhood.
Yeah, they can't afford the official licensed products. They can't afford the official branded products. Hence why they're wearing either generic sports top or a unofficial Boston Bruins jersey.
I'll take that. Because one thing I didn't quite like was they do seem to pitch this family as lower class.
Okay. There's a hierarchy.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe it's not done, but maybe it's hinted at a few times because we need to see there's a two different levels. But it's hinted that this is the worst, the less good level.
Okay. It's different. It's not the life that she wants.
Yeah.
She's not interested in watching sports and hanging out with her brothers. She wants to be a academic. She wants to be a writer.
Yes.
She probably has bigger ambitions than the rest of the family.
I suppose I just feel like they're dumbed down a bit too much.
I agree.
Yeah. Maybe it's obviously comedic effect.
Yeah, I agree.
The other point I'm going to bring up now is that Diane isn't voiced by an actor with Vietnamese heritage.
Okay.
Does that surprise you? Does it not surprise you? Are you not bothered?
Doesn't surprise me, and I'm not bothered.
Okay. Even though that's quite a strong point of the episode, not a point of the episode, but like they lean into the fact that she's Vietnamese for some of the jokes, or she's of Vietnamese heritage for some of the jokes coming up.
Bart Simpson's
not a yellow cake
voiced by a
and Bojack's not, and William Will's not a horse in real life.
Oh, he's not going to be a horse, is
yeah,
he? But ever since I found out that Bart Simpson was voiced by a woman, like I found that at a young age, and ever since then I was like, okay, and you know, when it comes to voice acting, anything's game as long as it fits.
I suppose the only thing that comes to mind a bit is I saw a bit of a video of Denzel Washington, and someone was interviewing him, and I think they said, why did it have to be a black director for the film? I don't know what film it was. And he said it didn't have to be a black director, but it had to be someone of the culture. And this is me paraphrasing the whole completely.
Yeah. No,
the point he was making was, you're looking at it on too shallow a level. You're looking at it just had to be someone black, but it didn't have to be someone black, but it probably has to be someone black because they've experienced the culture that this film may have been talking about. They know what they know what the food of that culture smells.
That's the point of being an actor, though.
Okay.
Christian Bale.
Yes.
Christian Bale's Welsh, but he's playing Batman,
Yes.
who's like iconically from an American crime city, a fictional American crime city, but he's still very, very different to Christian Bale's culture growing up. Like it's the joy of quality acting, right?
Could they have missed something here by not having everything? I'm not saying whether it's right or wrong, but I'm saying there's a joke in this episode that I really like about them being American, but they're not American. I'll say it now. She says, "We're immigrants." And he goes, "No, we're American." So they don't eat, like their families see themselves as American. She's trying, in this episode, there's a point where she's talking about being a second generation immigrant she's talking about, but she doesn't have to experience it, but I just feel there might be a nuance that you miss.
Well, firstly, you don't have to experience it because that's the point of acting.
Yes, okay.
And secondly, it's probably just my ignorance that it doesn't affect my enjoyment or my perception of the show. So the woman that, whoever it is that voices stuff.
Alison Brie, she's called.
Oh, she's in she's in a bunch of stuff.
Community.
I haven't seen
TV
Community.
show, Mad Men.
Okay, yeah.
A TV show called Glow.
Glow? I don't know Glow.
But also she voices quite a few Lego movies.
Okay, yeah.
But no, I think she might be a comedian as well.
Yeah, okay. So she does a good job. And like, I don't, the role that she's playing, her voice suits, right? Okay. She does a good job.
It's a
actually, and like
female voice for a female character.
Yeah, so I can. But if she's second generation, she's going to grow up with an American accent.
Yeah, maybe a twang though, or maybe.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
It's not so much.
But it doesn't affect my perception of it.
No.
My issue.
Does it feel unauthentic? I think then is that the problem. If you saw, I'm trying to think of some like a traditionally black character, for example, and we had them played. I can't think of any.
I'll give you a different example. Okay. The Ghost in the Shell movie, the Hollywood live action movie.
Okay.
When I found out Scarlett Johansson was playing the Major.
Yes.
I was like, no, I don't want any part of this.
Because she's
Japanese.
Right,
like
okay.
It's the Ghost in the Shell, one of the most famous and influential anime movies ever made, should have the majority Japanese cast.
Is that to just pay homage to it, or is that because you think a Japanese actor would have a better understanding
because I'm not in a position of authority to speak on other cultures or heritage or whatever. I'm only telling you as the consumer of the media, right? And how my enjoyment of it, like when you consume any media, you need to have a certain element like suspending belief, right? You need to like go with it and enjoy the story.
Yeah.
So if it's so clearly, plainly obvious to me every time I look at the screen that this Japanese role is being played by a white woman, that takes me out of it.
Okay.
Whereas the Alison Brie voicing Diane, Yeah, sure. Maybe if there had been a Vietnamese woman with the ability to do it,
Yeah.
if they were available,
Yeah.
sure,
Okay.
go for them, absolutely. But the fact that the character that I'm seeing on screen is Vietnamese, and her voice to me matches what might be a second generation immigrant.
Okay.
It doesn't take me out of it at all. And also, you've got to look at it that maybe they did look for a Vietnamese voice actor,
I don't know. Yeah.
and there was, and then in that case, are you going to sacrifice the quality of the performance?
It's a positive discrimination.
Just for the sake of putting in. I don't know. I can see both sides of the argument, but for me, it doesn't bother me because of my ignorance as a viewer.
No, for some reason, and I don't know whether it's racist just for this reason, but it would feel very weird if a white actor was playing a black character.
What, like Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder?
I think that I've not actually seen that film, but I know he does blackface. Well, he blacks, doesn't he?
Yeah, and
but whether that's done in the right tone and frame is another thing. I haven't seen it. Mm-hmm. But okay, so that's someone literally blacking up. Mm-hmm. But I'm actually talking about, it would feel weird if I saw a character on this show, a black character, and then I realised it was a white person. It would, I don't know. That's why I'm saying it might be just racist in my head.
Yeah,
I'm saying it's not.
No, I understand that.
Racist,
yeah,
but it isn't. But that would feel very weird.
Yeah. Is she fully Vietnamese? Or is she half Vietnamese?
So the mother and the father both look, and the rest of the family both look all Vietnamese. And I think we find out later in. Well, she suggests they're immigrants. She does say they're immigrants. I think she's second generation. I think she was born in America, but her parents weren't.
Okay.
Whether there's a third generation is another thing. But okay, it's me just bringing up.
I do see your point, and I do think, like I said, I do think that if there was a person of Vietnamese heritage that could have performed the role, that they would have been selected for the role.
Yes, and what we all know about Hollywood is that it's incredibly fair, unsexist, and
absolutely.
So I'm sure that was the case.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yes, we're looking at all the brothers now, and we're getting loads of jokes now about Boston and people from Boston. Like they keep saying their dad's departed. I didn't know whether the departed bit was just a phrase they use for people that have died, or whether it was a reference to the film.
Yeah,
because they think it's like, it's a film in Boston, so it must be the best film ever. But you have that connection to entertainment that is local to you, regardless of whether it's good or bad.
Yeah.
Yes, one of the brothers is looking up. He won't look up from the game, even though his sister's come in. So he's not seen for ages. He's just watching the game and can't look up from the game. He keeps saying, even though it's a game from '86.
Yeah, that showed his lack of intelligence and ambition. The fact that he's rewatching the same game over and over again, and he's like, I can't look away from the screen. Like, it just shows the like. Yeah,
but again, I feel like again, it just felt like the dumbing down of them.
Yeah,
like they really look up.
Yeah,
and I think the brothers also like, get us a beer, Diane. So as soon as she's come in, she's got to get beers for everyone. So again, it's portraying them as how she was in the family. She was like the odd one out that had to do everything. Diane's mum comes in as well, and she says, look who decided to come home, Queen Dee Dee. She blesses us with her presence in a very sarcastic way. Mm-hmm. Again, she makes a joke about in and out. She's in and out like a Protestant on Christmas. Because I think Boston is quite a Catholic place, and obviously this answer. Yeah. Loads and loads of jokes about Boston.
I did like that.
It worked well.
I mean,
it's probably quite clever.
As a strong atheist, I do appreciate good religious jokes.
Okay. You like them having jokes at each other, basically.
Yeah.
So Diane then decides she's just going to go. So the mother says, why would you want to stick around in your family's time of need? And she also goes on to mention about Diane's fancy life in California. And she says, for 5 years, you didn't come home. Why don't you make like aim, rod and blow? Her mother, I think, is quite different than the brothers. because I think the mother displays two things. She shows something of a loss of the daughter, because she's also surrounded by boys as well. So I think there's quite a few moments where she's talking about what she's actually saying is, how could you leave me? I think she gives off this impression through the episode that she's quite uncaring and quite unemotional. But I think there's something behind what she's saying, particularly when she's saying for 5 years you didn't come home. Like, I don't think she's saying it like, you've forgotten about us, don't come back now. I think she's saying like, you haven't come home to me for 5 years. But she can't display it. She can't communicate it as well as other people might do. Whether that's a bit of a Boston, I don't know whether it's a Boston trait as well as being hard and strong. And I feel quite sorry for the mother as opposed to the brothers for some reason. Well, not for some reason.
I didn't care about the mother at all.
Okay.
She was probably, yeah, I got...
She was just part of the family.
Yeah, she's part of the family,
Yeah.
just bitter.
No, and I think, I think you could... again, this might be me reading into it.
All the family, all the brothers might as well be the same.
Yes, and that's sort of the point as well. Yeah.
I like the black sheep.
Apart from the black sheep.
Yeah, I did like that joke. And the mother's just a non-entity for me. The family just, yeah.
Yeah, I've just, maybe I've written it better here. I think that she resents Diane for getting out and trying to have a better life.
Okay, maybe. It's just, they're just a massive stereotype. It's a massive cliche.
And it was supposed, I think that, if we knew people from Boston, it would like feel a bit different.
Here's an underprivileged Boston family, maybe have issues of poverty, but it doesn't affect, like, they're still pretty happy and content in living their lives. And yeah, they just didn't really do anything for me at all.
So Diane is about to leave and her brother basically begs her to stay. He says, we need help organising the funeral. And then the brother sort of appeals to her, like sort of appeal to her softer side and says like, we didn't go to college like you, we're not smart, we need help. It takes brains to organise something like this, is the sort of thing that he's saying. And then Diane just says, oh, okay, I'll help you. Have you got a number for me to call? And then he really quickly switches, which I thought was quite funny, and goes, yeah, try 1-800 the internet dummy. Jesus, like, do some legwork.
Yeah.
He tries to appeal to her intelligence. And then automatically, as soon as she says yes, he's diminishing how difficult the task is.
Just a standard sibling conversation. I mean,
just tricking each other.
It's the kind of conversation that you can only have with a sibling.
Okay. Yeah, and maybe that's what's funny about it as well, is that trickery and persuasion and the games we play as brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
This is where one of the brothers also reveals that the dad is actually in the room, that her dad's dead body is in the room, and they've just got ice packed around him to try and keep him cold. Diane says, is that balls on his head? And he's like, yeah, we thought he was just, again, wicked hungover. It's obviously a phrase they use a lot. I almost would have liked to see that scene as a cut scene, and then them realising, oh my God, he's actually dead. And then I can imagine like an argument about like, why did you make me draw balls on his head? Like, and all this sort of thing. I wish we saw that, but maybe it was nice that we didn't see it.
It always makes me interested when I'm watching American shows and they have regional context jokes. You know, like for us, there might be a Scouse family or a Cockney family or something, and there would be specific jokes that we'd understand being in British culture. So I always wonder how many little cultural jokes there are in American shows that go over my head because I'm not, because I don't know these like stereotypical views of certain people.
And this is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
So this is where we cut back to Todd's story, and Todd's now giving full tours of the David Boreanaz house, and he stuck David's face all over pictures of Bojack.
So dumb. It's so dumb. I hated it. It's crap.
It's dumb because you think everyone would be able to see it.
Yeah. Every single person that walks in that house, they're falling for this same thing. It's crap. Okay. I hated it.
One of the tourists picks up the picture, and David's face has fallen off the picture. And Todd goes to put it back on. And this is where we get the second voice in Todd's head. But this time it's his voice of conscience, because he says, is this Bojack speaking to me again?
Mhm.
He goes, no, Todd, this is your conscience speaking.
I think the joke is just the gullibility of tourists, especially given the context of where they are, because I know they do like
They do these tours.
like Beverly Hills tours and stuff, and they like drive you around and like say this person lives here and this person lives here, and it's like an abstract celebrity culture that I just don't get at all.
And I think, so I don't know where I've got it from, but I feel like someone just makes up those tours as well.
Yeah.
They just be picked up in a house.
Maybe
Maybe
that's what maybe that's a comment on that.
But this is also where Todd gets the phone call from Princess Caroline, and she's heard about the scheme and she wants to take it to the next level. Basically, she's heard that he's making money, and as his agent, she's like, well, firstly, I need a cut. I can take this to the next level.
This is the one point of this whole plot that I liked. We don't know how she found out. Within minutes or hours of this scam starting, she's already aware of it. She already knows what's going on, and she wants to get cut in.
But again, it emphasises how connected and working he is. I didn't think about how did she find out.
Yeah, we're not told that she's straight away on the phone. I want in on this, and we don't know how she found out, which is I
like that.
It's the one part of this plot that I appreciated.
Yeah. So we cut back to Bojack in the car, and he's bored of the kaleidoscope, and he's basically going to go back into the house. But before he does, we see inside the house, inside Diane's family home, and they're all arguing. And this is the joke that I really like, actually. And I thought I liked it for one reason, but I've only just by rewatching it found out I like it even more. So they're arguing about how one of the brothers can't get a job because of all the immigrants. And Diane points out that they're immigrants and that they are Vietnamese. Mm-hmm. And the brother then says, whoa, no, hang on, I'm American as fuck. Mm-hmm. And that's what I thought he said. Mm-hmm. So at first I used to think just the way he says it is very like, how dare you try and take my nationality away from me? Mm-hmm. I'm American, this is what I am. He was very offended about that. And for him, it was so obvious that he was American. But he doesn't say, we're American as fuck. What he says is, we're American as pho. And pho is a Vietnamese soup that's quite popular in America. Okay. What I'm guessing is quite popular in America. Okay. Because I think the joke is, he's referencing something else that he thinks is American, that again is actually Vietnamese. Okay. So it's like a double. So I don't know whether we're supposed to think he's saying I'm American as fuck, or whether we're supposed to think it's American as fuck.
So here's a question for you then, on the Alison Brie Vietnamese thought line. If she's second generation immigrant, she was born in America.
Okay.
If she has an American passport, does that make it more okay for Alison Brie to voice her rather than a Vietnamese voice actress?
I don't know, and if you're asking me, I don't think it does matter that much. Okay. But the reason I asked you the question earlier is because I have seen it come up a couple of times. Yeah. Stuff I've seen about the show. A bit more about the show being quite, again, that trait of American entertainment being quite white dominated, and the show was quite white dominated.
Oh yeah, total whitewashing.
It does change over the seasons, and it's almost like they've decided to do more.
I don't know, but it is an interesting question. Yeah. That if Diane is a first generation immigrant, then it would probably be less okay for Alison Brie to voice Diane. But because she is a second generation immigrant, does that make her more American than Vietnamese? Even though she's got Vietnamese, genetically she's Vietnamese. She's born in America and she's been raised in America. Therefore, is she culturally more American?
The only thing that I have that tempts me to think that it's an issue is the amount of times in the whole of the show that they reference her Vietnameseness or her not being a white person. and they do it without. Okay,
The more I think about it, the more I'm against this whitewashing of Diane.
No, yeah, and
Is it good? So if we think about it from our cultural perspective,
yes,
if we have for example, traditionally we have a big Southeast Asian population in Britain, right? A lot of Indians, Pakistanis, whatever. So if we had a show, if we had a British cartoon that had a second generation Indian guy, but he was voiced by a white guy,
well, you know what show that? It's not quite that show, but The Simpsons was really close with Apu.
Well,
I know he's first generation immigrant, but Apu was voiced by a white person.
Really? Wow, I didn't know that.
Apu, and that's why Apu isn't in it anymore.
Is it?
No, because sometimes I forget that you don't tune into the Simpsons news like I do.
No, I gave up many seasons ago.
I think 2 or 3 years, maybe 2 years ago.
Okay.
But he's not in it deliberately because there's been it was an outcry of not just a white person playing it, but also playing on the joke of the accent.
Yeah.
Like he was doing the accent in as a joke way.
Wow.
So, but you're saying that, but that's not quite the same.
But he's been doing it for so many years, and now it's not okay.
And so many Simpsons fans would say, "Oh my God, he's such a strong part of the show."
Is this a case of the right thing to do due to cultural awareness, or is this woke society?
Yes, and that's that's exactly
pulling the plug. Like, wow, I didn't know that.
So the only thing that did really change it for me was I think I read a few quotes about some kids from Indian kids saying that, like, as a child, that line or those lines of come again and the accent and being automatically portrayed as that person was used in a very heavy context in their child, so it's almost like forced on them.
What, in a derogatory sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
so it has a negative impact on them. But again, I think for me the problem with The Simpsons is it's cross generation. So loads of things have even if you look at the early gay line.
Was the what's his name, Dr. Hibbert? Was he voiced by a black guy or a white guy?
Yeah, white. I think the whole cast is white, mate.
Wow.
It doesn't surprise.
Wow. But if you hadn't have told me that she wasn't Vietnamese, it wouldn't have made any difference to.
Would you presume she was Vietnamese though?
Honestly,
yeah.
I don't see Diane as Vietnamese. Okay. But I do now.
Yeah, because we're talking about it.
No, because so when she enters the house and someone says we're Vietnamese. I literally sat there and in my head I went, oh yeah, she's Vietnamese.
Okay.
I don't see her as a Vietnamese character. Okay. I don't know if that's the way that it's animated or the way that she acts. Obviously, when that line came up, I instantly thought about her surname, and I was like, yes, that's a very Vietnamese surname. Okay. But it's not used very often in the show. My point is that maybe I'm not paying attention enough to the show. Okay. But like it wasn't until
this is a test on the show.
It wasn't until we met her family that I was like, oh yeah, she's Vietnamese. Yeah.
No, I think I might have even thought that as well.
She's very,
maybe it's in the point
American. She's very LA, right? She's very Californian. The character.
Yes, so let's have Bojack enter the scene again.
Okay.
So he's bored of his kaleidoscope and he's come into the house. Diane's just gone into the kitchen or something, so she's not actually in the scene. But Bojack opens the door and he sees all these people, and he says, "I'm looking for Diane. Does anyone here speak English?" Because he's looked at all these foreign people basically, which is a bit of a joke.
Yeah.
But then brother says, "It's the freaking horse from Horsing Around." Yeah. So again, it's this line that's going to keep coming up. But even though the brother has spoken English,
he says, what does he say? Pull over and park the car.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
Pull over and park the car. It's the freaking horse from Horsing Around. So even though he's spoken English, Bojack says again, does anyone here speak English?
Yeah.
Which is a joke on the accent,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, yeah.
Now they look different and they sound different.
Yeah. Just for reference, I love the Boston accent.
Okay.
I love it. Yeah.
This brings us back to Bojack's house, where Princess Caroline has now taken over Todd's Boreanaz house scam, and it seems to be really developing onto the next level. While Diane is trying to sort out what to do with her dad's body, her brothers are all mesmerised by Bojack's presence and asking him questions, and he's loving it as well. He's like, oh, people are happy to see me and speak to me, so I'll indulge them a little bit. And then this is when one of the brothers mentions the Cryan video, which they all seem to have a fond view of, but Diane's really not happy about it. And that's because her brothers basically pretended to be, as they called it, a sensitive boy from Cambridge. And they obviously developed a conversation and a relationship with Diane as this pen pal. And they even took it to the extent where they hired a homeless guy to take her to the homecoming dance. In the video that we see, Diane's very upset about it and she doesn't know what to do. And all the brothers are laughing and joking about it. Obviously, it's a prank that's gone too far, but the brothers can't see it not because they're stupid, but just because their level of comedy and what entertains them is different than Diane's. It's not better or worse, it's just different.
This was awful.
Okay, what they did to her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the sibling.
It was supposed to be awful.
The sibling humour, but this was just really grim.
A prank gone too far, but maybe it's an example of things always going too far, and Diane never feeling like she fits in, like they're all ganging up on her.
Yeah, and it was another moment. It was a moment of you can see why Diane didn't want to stick around with the family, and she wanted to spread her wings and do her own thing.
But that brings us a bit later to Diane and Bojack at the funeral home.
And my favourite character in the episode. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
The single shining light in this episode.
Yeah, the funeral director is a maggot.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So again, it's the night, and he's sort of quite elegant in his talking, like. Yeah. You know,
and his little face mouth thing looks like a moustache as well, and it's
but also, I don't know what you call it, the crawling off. How it crawls off.
Yeah, because he stands up normally and then turns around and then just wriggles on the floor. I don't know if he's got a name, but he's brilliant.
So they're basically at the funeral home and trying to work out. They're basically trying to arrange it. The director's listening to what Diane's got to say, and she's saying, "Oh, he was awful and all this." And I think she even says like he was a real piece of shit dad. Mm-hmm. And then the funeral says, "Oh, well, can I suggest the piece of shit dad package?" Mm-hmm. And then Diane goes, "No, that would be too good for him." At which point the funeral director says, "Oh, well, maybe you should have the piece of shit dad package would be too good for him package." Mm-hmm. And I really like the idea that I think there's actually something quite sinister in actually that this episode brings up references a bit later again, that they're selling on emotion rather than functionality. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like, do you want a casket? Do you want a gold casket? Do you want these flowers? Do you want this? It's like, tell me about your emotion and I will just fleece your emotion for however much money, is what I actually think they're doing. But I do also just like the joke that they've got a package for everything, mm-hmm. and they can just put your name down for whatever they want. Yeah. So Bojack starts telling Diane that she needs to learn a way of letting off some steam, which is basically just a move into him getting a phone call again from the two paparazzi birds who are still trying to blackmail him, but he won't even answer the phone now. I like that Diane says, "Why don't you just answer the phone?" And he goes, "Oh, they would just love that." Like he's playing into this, mm-hmm. like he thinks it's a game. Yeah. And he's like all the mental strategies and battles of a phone call, of who's taking the phone call. And he doesn't want these people to have power over him, but by acting the way he is letting them have power over him. Mm-hmm. So it's like this weird circle of gameplay and mind games that, yeah, I just love that phrase again as well, where he goes, "Oh, they would just love that, wouldn't they? Like answering a phone call."
So many people do that as well, though.
Yes,
They don't answer the phone when it's an unknown number.
because they would love that.
And then they get annoyed when it's like, oh, who keeps calling me?
So the paparazzi birds can't get through to Bojack, so they have this idea of let's go to his house.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, David Boreanaz's scam is in full swing, and now they're questioning whether this is even his house, which leaves them very confused. But is the segue into Princess Caroline and Todd talking about the scam and how it's developed, because Todd's starting to feel very overwhelmed, and he says, I don't know what's happened. I was just trying to have a bit of fun, and now I've got all these responsibilities. But Princess Caroline is continuing to push him. She's like, look, we're making money, keep making money. We can do this. And this is because of her work hard mentality.
It's a big greed mentality, because she gets really like pushy. She's basically speaking to him like a pimp.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Like he's really
You're working for me. Maybe agents are.
Yeah. Nah, this was just total greed from me.
So this is when Todd hears Bojack's voice again for the third time, but this time it is supposed to be David Boreanaz's voice. But all he's got to say to Todd for some reason is, just keep doing what you're doing and you'll be fine. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of what the voice says to him.
Yeah.
I don't really get.
It's come full circle.
Oh, what? Because what? He was what do you mean?
He's just submitted to it now.
Oh, the whole Boreanaz house.
Yeah.
Just keep doing. Yeah,
I think it's just denial. Todd's just in denial.
Right. And so it's not actually David. It's not supposed to be David. It's supposed to be his.
It's all his thoughts.
Yeah. This is the sort of bits about this show and maybe Todd that I just feel don't actually go anywhere.
Agreed.
That it doesn't really add anything.
Yeah.
So back at the funeral home, the mother and the brothers haven't shown up for the funeral that Diane's arranged, and the dad's body wasn't at the house for the funeral directors to pick up. So now Diane's annoyed because she's put all this effort in, and they're just not bothered. This is another bit that I like about the funeral director. He suggests for a small fee they can scrounge up another body for them. Yeah. Would you care to peruse the loner closet? And this is the point where I feel like the bit earlier makes a bit more sense to me about having the different packages labelled on the emotion rather than the amount of money and the features you get with it. Because this is just a money making scheme. It's saying you're in an emotional state. I can fleece you at every moment because I can take advantage.
I don't know if it's that. I don't know if this is just a case of going through the motions.
Okay.
Diane doesn't care that her father's dead, really. No. Like, she's not really shown any true emotion about it. She might care, but she's not really, none of the family have shown any true emotion.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do you do when someone dies? You have a funeral. That's just the done thing. I got the vibe that the maggot guy knows that she's not really bothered. She's already explained that she wants the cheapest package. So he's like,
not the cheapest.
Okay.
Oh, that's where I think it's right. I don't think we know the price of it. I think it could be more.
Okay.
The package.
Okay. Well, whatever it is, she's already expressed that she's not bothered, and she wants to, like, she knows, but yeah. So he's kind of like, well, she's just going through the motions of having a funeral, so it doesn't really matter whose body it is.
Right. Okay. Yeah,
that's the vibe that I got.
No, you're right, and that's the vibe I got. That sort of going through the motions and not caring. Just wanting it to be done.
Yeah.
But I think there might be, again, me reading into it a bit too much, I think there might be a little bit of a comment on actually how expensive funerals can be.
Okay, maybe.
Not saying that funeral directors are trying to not trying to take advantage of people, but I would suggest it's quite an easy time to take advantage.
Yes, yeah. Really.
There's actually, the other thing that made me think about it is in the background, there's a poster and I think it says like satisfaction guaranteed.
Okay.
And there's like a guy smiling with his thumb up, and it just felt that felt a bit out of play.
Yeah.
Obviously it must be deliberate. So Diane and Bojack go off to find the brothers and the mother, and they're sat at a bar, just drinking and watching the game on the TV. So she questions why they weren't there, and then they explain Dad wouldn't have wanted a fancy funeral. He would have wanted to be turned into chum and thrown in Derek Cheetah's fat face.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a joke in turning a body into chum, which I can only presume is like a mushy goo of something. I don't know what chum is.
No.
And for some reason, they think that that's what he would have wanted, and that's what they're going to do now. So there's a bit of an absurdity to the situation.
Yeah.
However, it's also the mother again that says, it's what your father wanted, honey. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? So I think this is, again, her being resentful and spiteful that she hasn't been around.
Yeah.
But also, I think this is maybe an example of one of Diane's toxic traits of thinking she knows better than everybody.
Okay.
Because she maybe doesn't know her father as well as her mother.
Okay. Yeah.
Because even if you take the thought that they enjoy different things.
Yeah.
So Diane has thought when she's organising this funeral, it should be like this. Because this is what I like.
Yeah. This so it should be.
However, she's not in tune with the family.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Actually, Diane has been in the wrong here because she's not tried to engage with the family. She's not said, "Oh, did Dad talk about these last dying wishes that he had or anything like that?" And maybe they knew this all the way from the start.
Yeah, good point, mate. I thought about that.
So, but also in showing her functionality, she's not functional with her parents. But then the argument is they've also been very lazy and not been bothered to do any of the organising themselves anyway. So Diane's clearly very frustrated at the family. And then Bojack pipes up now. We haven't heard much from Bojack, I don't think, but he pipes up and he says, look guys, you've got it all wrong. She's writing a book that isn't even going to have her name on it. You think this is how you thought her life would be going at 34. And he says she lives with a rich boyfriend and doesn't even pay rent. So, and this is where the brothers just lose it at her. They're like, oh my God, you don't pay rent. Like, that's the most basic problem. And they're all taking the mick out of her again, basically. And this causes Diane to have a meltdown in the bar, throwing bottles everywhere. She goes crazy. And this is now a very different Diane to what we've seen in the past. Yeah. And I think we've obviously been building up to it. Did this change your mind on Diane at all? Or did it, I can think, maybe we're talking about the whole episode.
I think the only thing that it changed is the fact that throughout all of Bojack so far, Diane's been pretty level-headed, and she seemed a bit pretentious.
Did you say she was the most likeable from the start? Or something like she was the only one you didn't hate as soon as you met her?
Yeah.
Something wrong there.
She has seemed, Bojack's right, she has seemed very functional. She is the most functional character in the show. That's what I'll say. All the other characters are very dysfunctional in their own way. And up till now, despite this slight sense of pretentiousness or arrogance, she's maintained control, and she's kind of on it. But then this is the first time that we see her like lose control, basically.
Yes. Because of her family and
because of Bojack's unhelpful words that he thought he was trying to help, but it didn't really help.
Yeah, I wrote, I don't know why Bojack phrased it like this. He says she's not a big shot and she's not too good for anything.
I think Bojack's genuinely trying to be helpful. I think genuinely.
We just
I think like her family are digging into it for these reasons, and they have been doing all the time that Bojack's known her family. And then he's like, no, you're wrong. Like, you think she's a big shot, but she's not. Like, I think he's genuinely trying to be helpful. I don't think it's Bojack trying to bring Diane down.
You think it is just the way he phrased it, just is unfortunate. Yeah. And he doesn't mean to phrase it like that. All the brothers are laughing at Diane for not paying rent, which causes her to go into a meltdown in the bar where she drives away with the truck and Dad's chum inside of the truck still. One of the brothers says, like, oh no, she's taken the dad away. What are we going to do? We get a title screen with 3 minutes later, and then they're all just sat at the bar still watching the game, drinking. Bojack says, So while we're not going to do anything then, basically. Which again shows that they're not, it gives the impression they're not bothered about her, which I don't quite like. I think that's a bit of an unlikely situation. Unless they were that, the only thing that makes me question myself is actually they did seem really unbothered about her meltdown. Like when she's going around throwing bottles everywhere and smashing the place up, they're just sat there like, oh no, Diana's doing her thing, like all this, like they're really nonchalant about it. So whether it happened that much as they were growing up and they knew Diana always came back afterwards, they knew it was going to be...
It seemed like normal behaviour.
Yeah. Basically, that's what I mean. It seemed like normal behaviour for them, but Bojack's like, this isn't normal behaviour for someone to act like this. And he's about to go in and find her, but then the brothers sort of say, oh, why are you going to look for her? Well, why don't we go and play football? Football. And he's sort of like really torn, like at the time, like, oh, I do want to play with brothers football, but I should go and sit down. So, but at this point, before we find out where Bojack's gone, we cut back to Todd in the Boreanaz house, and the police have now arrived. So things have escalated and got massively out of hand.
Someone takes the kitchen sink.
Someone's taking the kitchen, just anarchy basically now. And Princess Caroline and Todd are like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And Princess Caroline's like, I'm getting out of here. And she makes a joke about Princess Caroline always lands on her feet because she's a cat. So she basically jumps out the window and she's all right. Even the police as well, when they come in to see Todd, they say, Mr. Boreanaz, I presume. Which I think is, again, playing on the fact that it's the generic...
Yeah, even they don't know
what they're doing, They've been told it's his house, so they're like, oh, so you must be him. We also see Mr. Peanut Butter pop up here. He makes a small appearance, and he's at the house, and he's comforting Diane on the phone because she's obviously had this episode, and she's saying that, he's like, oh, they must have the same architect. He's playing, again, playing into that sort of dumb mentality that he's been given off. And while they're on the phone, Bojack turns up at the hill by the dump that she mentioned earlier. So he was listening and he was able to find her. He apologises for what he said at the bar, and he hands her a letter that was written, that he found, and it's written by this pen pal called Leo that the brothers created earlier. And at first Diane's a bit apprehensive about it because she's like, what that's an awful thing that they used to do. Why do you bring this up again? But in the letter he writes, it's a bit of a long letter, but the bit of it that I've picked out is, you're a good person, Diane, and that's the most important thing. Even if no one appreciates you, it's important that you don't stop being good. I think she does appreciate this letter and she likes it. But again, it's a weird sort of connection between the two characters. I wouldn't call it romantic, but there is...
I would.
Okay. What I was going to say, there is in the background, there's a bit of like soft romantic music while she's reading.
Definitely Bojack telling Diane
but is it
the things that he likes about her.
But is it a nice thing as a friend to do, or is it a nice thing for someone that's physically attracted to you?
Given Bojack's character,
I
don't think Bojack would do this as a friend.
So you think he's like vulnerable? He sees her as vulnerable now.
No, I think he genuinely likes it.
Okay, and he's trying to prove.
And he's trying to. No, he genuinely likes her, and he's trying to cheer her up by telling her things that he likes about her.
Yeah, I'm still torn between whether it's romantic or not.
Okay.
So Diane at the end of the letter says, I still just want them to be proud of me and think I did good. Is that really stupid? And this is where Bojack just really abruptly says, yep, that is stupid. Yeah. I feel like when most of us would be condoling someone like this, you sort of almost want to just agree with them for the sake of agreeing with them, to comfort them and go, yes, that's nice. Yes, oh no, you're not a bad person for them wanting to be proud of you. But Bojack actually really hits the nail on the head, and in his opinion, and this is where his view is very different from the world, where he's like, yes, that is stupid. Like doing something because of trying to make someone else proud isn't the right reason to do something.
Okay.
Is what I feel like.
Yeah.
Because what you're essentially doing is you're doing it for them. And Diane says, I was just hoping for a bit of closure. And then Bojack replies, closure is a made-up thing by Steven Spielberg to sell movie tickets. It's like true love or the Munich Olympics. It doesn't exist in the real world. The only thing to do now is to keep living forward.
I like the phrase "living forward."
Okay, you know, I thought it. I didn't.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird, but I like it. But
yeah, so about closure.
The rest of it is horseshit.
Okay, you think there is closure?
Well, yeah, because there is such thing as true love and the Munich Olympics. This line is only in there to show Bojack's cynicism with the world.
Right. Okay.
That's all it is.
Okay.
That's all it is.
What if he's saying, like, obviously people love each other, but I think maybe what he's saying about the true love phrase is it's not true love like in the movies. Like, it's not happily ever after love. It's not you get married, we live happily ever after.
But that does happen.
But it also doesn't happen.
It also doesn't happen, yeah. But just because it doesn't happen, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Doesn't mean it's completely fabricated.
But maybe. Are you taking it too literal? As in, true love literally doesn't exist, and the Munich Olympics didn't happen.
Well, that's what he says, isn't it?
Obviously, it happened, but what Bojack's saying is we don't like to think of it like it happened.
Okay.
So he, like, literally, obviously, love it.
So what does Bojack say? What's the
so he's closure is a made-up thing by Steven Spielberg to sell movie tickets. It's like true love or the Munich Olympics. It doesn't exist in the real world.
Yeah,
he's only things to do that.
He's literally saying it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, this is horseshit. This is
maybe it's the way.
This is just Bojack's jaded, worldly cynicism. This is him just thinking, yeah.
But maybe,
or maybe it's Bojack going, I never got closure, therefore it doesn't exist.
No, okay.
I've never had true love, therefore it doesn't exist.
Yes. I am going to push back on this quite heavily, this idea of, but maybe more the idea of the closure element of that at the end of, like, they've had some hard times and now everything's okay. Or they struggled to be in a relationship and now they're allowed to be and now they're happy. There's a point of the show in total that is actually about life still going on afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
So after the movie finishes, they still have to live their lives.
Yeah.
And good stuff is going to happen, bad stuff is going to happen. That I just think that there's something for me in the idea that this peace of mind that there will be closure is false.
So closure isn't just, I think you're thinking too narrow-minded when it comes to closure. Closure can be anything in your life. So for me, if I'm working on a big video project that keeps going on and on and on, and like I keep getting edits back and the client's demanding more than, and we've got this complicated issue going on, there will reach a point where I get closure where I'm like, okay, this is done. I can move on to the next thing. I can now empty my mind of this thing. This thing.
You should do.
It's taking up cognitive space.
You should do, but do you?
Yes.
But I've got loads of things that
I'll learn from it, but it's not something that I need to address going forwards.
Maybe what Bojack's saying here is it doesn't exist in the way that films tell us it exists.
Bojack is saying here, I'm cynical.
Okay.
And I'm jaded.
No,
and I see the world in this way.
Yes, no, I think that as well. And I think he mentions, doesn't he, about that I've had bad parents as well. Like you're talking to someone here that's had bad parents or not enjoyed their parents, or however I would phrase it. He understands Diane's lack of fondness for their family and this feeling like you're not. So he's like, I know what you're talking about. And he's saying, but then I feel, maybe he's saying, like, you're not going to get over your parents not liking you.
Because he hasn't.
Okay. No, you're right. I think it
just because
it can. I think it can exist.
So these people in this scene haven't achieved closure.
Okay.
For their past trauma, whatever it is.
Yes.
But just because you haven't achieved it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Okay. No, I agree with that. I agree that you can achieve closure. Yeah. So Diane mentions this is how she feels every time she comes back home, and Bojack's like, well, don't go home then. He says you should stay in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles is a place where no one cares where you're from or no one cares who you are. It's a superficial town where you can worry about stupid shit like keeping your pool clean and what artisanal nuts to put in your salad. So it's obviously a joke about LA and LA culture and the people of LA being very privileged life.
Yeah.
But I think it's also, we can spend ages talking about deeper questions and deeper problems. But again, a bit like Mr. Peanut Butter, ultimately what is actually going to make us happier? Is it actually just going to be, is it going to be getting down into the deep with horrible questions and emotions? Or actually, is there an easier to attain happiness? Is there something in being able to sort of scoot along and just enjoy the smaller events of life as they happen, as opposed to delving into the deep stuff every time?
I'm referring back to the Matrix again.
Yeah.
Cypher's little steak monologue.
Yes.
Ignorance is bliss.
So as Bojack's saying this, he jumps onto the truck next to Diane. He says, the good news is your dad can never hurt anyone again, which knocks off the barrel of Chum, or her dad's remains, off the truck, and on a long comical journey through all these places to where Derek Jeter is walking an old lady across the street. And there must be a joke here for American or for baseball fans where he's a nice person helping people across the street, and then the barrel of Chum just misses him and knocks the old lady.
Because you think it's going to land on him, because then that fulfills the father's wishes of
being thrown in his fat face. But it doesn't. It misses him, and the old lady's hit to the ground, and he steals her bag and runs away. So it's obviously a comment that a joke that he's a nice person, but he's not actually a nice person.
Yeah.
This is a bit of a moment, actually. Diane and Bojack are heading back to Los Angeles, and they're heading back to the airport. And then Diane just nips out, and then Bojack says, I'm just going to wait here and make a call. And he's making a call to Herb, who we got introduced to in the last episode, didn't we?
Yeah.
And he has this really awkward voicemail with him. He says, we have some unfinished business and life's too short to hold grudges and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying about life being too short? Of course you do. You're the one with terminal. Like, maybe we could talk. And he ends it with smell you later. It's like, it's a real sort of like, I can really feel that he struggled with that conversation. But this is sort of a weird, I think this doesn't fit with what we've seen from Bojack so far.
Okay.
I think this is a new tangent, basically.
This was just a standard scene for me.
Okay. Oh no. Yeah. Okay. I felt
well. Okay. So the main character's been in a situation where a loved one has died.
Okay.
It's made him take stock of stuff. Oh, yes. Let's make a phone call to an old friend that's maybe on death's door.
Okay, but
I've not spoken to him for a while. It's going to be awkward. All right.
Yes.
Yeah. Nothing new here.
There is some little bits of the inflections of him on the phone call that I think were done quite well. Okay. And where Will, I think.
Oh yeah, I think
where Will does it.
I think Will's performance as Bojack is always good.
Yes.
But as for the content, there was nothing special here. The premise of this podcast is for you to convince me that this is the greatest animated TV show of all time.
Yes.
So every time that we discuss a point, that's my frame of reference. And this was absolutely standard. So nothing special.
That's okay. Because I'd be more worried if this was like one of the top episodes. Yeah. And then I'd be like, oh my God, this is let's grind it in. The end of this phone call is also the title of this podcast.
Yeah.
Where he said, do you know what? And actually, the reason I picked this, well, there's a couple of reasons why I picked this name for the podcast, but one of them is just the way he said, the way Will says, this is Bojack Horseman, obviously.
Yeah.
I can't say it.
Okay.
It's such a simple phrase. This is an example of why voice acting is so hard.
Yeah.
And he does it so well, but it's so nonchalant, and it's such a little short bit at the end. Bojack gets another unknown call, but this time it's from Todd in prison.
Yeah.
And because obviously the police have taken him away after Borealis' house. And Bojack doesn't pick up the phone call, which leaves the episode on a bit of a comedy style cliffhanger and Todd with a bit of a shocked expression about what to do next. It's like, there's a weird sound in the background as well. So we don't know what's going to happen to Todd. Favourite visual joke, probably agree, I think is the funeral director as the maggot.
Absolutely.
It just works so well.
It's the best thing about it.
So rating and general thoughts about the episode.
3.
3 again. Okay.
I think I gave the last one 4. Did I?
I think there's a 3 and a 4. I can't remember which one.
Okay. My ratings now are influenced by the series as a whole as well, not just on the individual episode.
It's on. So like to structure it that much.
But I didn't really enjoy the last episode, and I was hoping that this one might pick up, and it didn't, and it's just flatlined. It was just Todd's whole storyline that I just didn't get. I didn't enjoy that at all. The Diane Bojack storyline, very tropey, very cliche. The characters, the black sheep was funny. It was a good idea, and the maggot guy was really good. Yeah, not the whole.
It wasn't a good episode.
No, the last 2 episodes have been the worst so far.
Okay,
right. And if I compare them to the worst episodes of my benchmarks, like Archer and Rick and Morty, then yeah, this is way worse.
Okay, so I've given it a rating of 7. I think there's some bits that do make me laugh in it, and I think Bojack's got some nice comments in it again, and I like seeing Diane's different side as well. I like the fact that we're now exploring that character in a bit more detail.
But there's nothing new.
But we said Diane wasn't functional, though. But she was functional before. And now we've just seen this whole episode.
This character goes back and has a dysfunctional relationship with a estranged family. No, but my point is that this has been done so many times in other shows. It's like a proper cliche, and this one didn't do anything different.
Okay.
So if I was judging it as a normal TV show, fine. But as I'm judging it as the greatest animated show ever made, then this doesn't stand out compared to other TV.
Okay, but would a generic TV show have a happy end, have a moment of closure between Diane and the family?
Depends on the show. Yeah, it depends on the show. It's been done so many times.
I feel like where it's been done so many times, they have like a realization that we are one family.
It totally depends on the show.
That's where I think I would differ with this episode. I think Diane realizing that she needs to spend less time worrying about her family, and knowing that that's okay to do is different.
Fair enough.
So I've given it a 7. Not to reference something later, but I feel like I am averaging out on 7s.
Okay.
I almost want to change some of my past scores because I've got a 7, but I'll give it a 7 because it was on the good side of good, but not great. IMDb is a 7.3. So in the next episode, we'll talk about season 1, episode 6. Our A story is a D story. Thank you for listening.